That's a lot of electronics. What's going on, guys? In this episode, I'm going to take you guys back to my freshman year of college. I've always been the entrepreneurial type of person, as can be seen with this YouTube channel and some of my other ventures, but this one is near and dear to my heart and very important to me. It all started the summer before my freshman year of college when I realized that I had accumulated a lot of stuff all throughout my 18 years of life that I was never going to be taking to college. I started selling everything in my room, from clothes to knickknacks, room decor, and electronics. Being myself, I went ahead and did some market research to make sure I'd get top dollar for all of my stuff. I began selling on places such as Facebook Marketplace and Mercari, not thinking that I was going to have a ton of success. Well, let me tell you, I was wrong. You see, the market for used items in recent years has been soaring, and I'm not talking about the crap that you find on Craigslist. I'm talking about lightly used items that still hold a bunch of their value. While I listed the items and the electronics basically sold overnight. I woke up the next morning with 3 of the items sold, all of them electronics, all for asking price. After doing a bit of research myself, I began to realize why these items still hold value. These things were worth a decent chunk of money, from old iPod Shuffles to Nanos to MacBook Pros, old iPhones, all the above. You see, not everyone can afford the latest and greatest, and I knew that, but that's not just the people that were buying from me. A lot of the buyers were resellers who thought they could make an additional $20 profit off my item, or people who were buying it for parts, or people who like collecting old electronics. Yes, that's a thing. Well, without further ado, being the broke teenager that I was, I went ahead and gathered all my family's old electronics at their permission and sold them all for above asking price.
Several months later.
Months passed and I continued to sell pretty much any electronic that fell in my lap. Friends, family, anything that I could cheap or even flip. It wasn't until the spring of my freshman year that I actually turned this hobby or side hustle into an actual business, and I realized that I could have a much larger impact on the community, and I completely shifted the direction of my company. With the guidance of my wonderful girlfriend, she helped me realize that I could shift this side hustle into a business and actually turn it into a social entrepreneurship to help the greater surrounding community. I'd grown up in the East Bay just over the hill from Berkeley, and it's basically like a whole different world. I rarely saw poverty growing up, and at UC Berkeley, it's pretty much a constant in your life, and it's incredibly sad, and I knew that I had to do anything I possibly could to make a greater impact. Growing up, I went to some of the best public schools in the country, and juxtapose that with the Berkeley and Oakland schools, which are just 20 minutes away from where I was living, I knew that I had to make a greater social impact on the surrounding community. Now here's where I made the switch to a business. Once this switch was made, I reached out to all of my local friends and family in the area and asked them to spread the word about donating electronics. Using Nextdoor and Facebook, I began getting messages back from friends and family, and they said they had extra electronics lying around that they wouldn't be used anymore, and they wanted them repurposed or sold for them. One of the things that I did really well from the start in this business was I knew my market. The Berkeley market for electronics, there was such a strong need for them, and there was a very large lack of them. Juxtapose that with the surrounding East Bay area, where there's tons of affluent families that had plenty of the latest and greatest laying around in their garages collecting. See, the physical selling side of things was actually quite easy, but the back end was actually what took up most of my time. And what I mean by that is listing all these items. Now, I list all my items on 3 separate platforms: Mercari, Facebook Marketplace, and OfferUp. This allows me to sell nationwide while also reaching the local Oakland and Berkeley natives who are desperately in need of electronic devices at a great price. It takes a lot of time going and promoting all of these items on the various platforms, reaching out and messaging the buyers, making sure they're not fake, just before I actually go meet up with the person. And half of the time, they don't even show up. However, while this side of the business is the most annoying side, it's also the part that makes this business a business, because if you don't sell anything at the end of the day, it's not a business. What I basically do is I have people give me electronics, and with the massive amount of data and experience that I have in this, I'm able to sell their items for top dollar. Once they're sold, I plug all of the data into my spreadsheet, and that gives me a feedback on how much I owe the previous owner and how much goes to local Oakland schools. And that is the perfect segment into the administrative side of this business. When it came to the administrative side of the business, it was definitely a learning curve for me. I thought I could do all the calculations from profit margin, revenue, to how to cut for the local schools, etc., all in my head and just remember it and then give it back to cash to the previous owner. Well, that's just not how you run a business, basically. In addition to this, I began to realize that I had a bunch of overhead costs, such as shipping supplies, listing fees, and platform fees that all had to be incorporated into each individual item. To manage this, I created one massive Google Drive folder and had a sheet that managed everything from my clients' data, their contact info, to what the item was selling for, what items they had, and gave each item a product code so I could compare historical data of what each product sold for in the past, so I could go back, and if I got the same item twice, I could just go check to see what it sold for the prior time. When growing a brand just starting out, it might be easy to just get it out through word of mouth, but at some point in this day and age, you have to expand to the internet. I'm not the most social media savvy person, and I definitely think this is a part of the business I could have done better with and I really struggled with. I made an Instagram account and a website for my company, but at the end of the day, posting about what items I had and the charitable donations weren't really bringing in the audience that I needed. As you can see, my website was complete with all the info that you would probably need. How to donate, link to buy my current products, about myself, our mission. It was complete, but it was nothing that really caught people's eye. And that's what a startup really needed. When you click on a link online, it has to really catch the viewer's eye and make them say, wow, what is this product? What is this company? When I was beginning on Instagram, I didn't even know where to begin. I first wondered, could Instagram even really generate me customers? As I mentioned earlier, social media is not my forte, and that is directly reflected in the first couple of social media posts that I had. Thus, I reported to my professional network on LinkedIn and had tons of great success because it was easy to share the message and something everyone on there could really get behind. I ended up getting tons of electronic donations and even monetary donations to give back to the local Oakland schools, and it was a great success. If I were to go back again, I would have hired on someone else to help me out with the social media push, because that, in this day and age, is where you will get your new audience from. As I mentioned earlier, one of the main reasons I started to take this business more seriously and to heart was because I knew that it could have a greater impact than just myself. For each sale that Tech to Cash makes, a portion of the proceeds will go to local Oakland schools and charities. During the spring of 2019, when I really started to take this business seriously, I reached out to a local middle school in Berkeley just down the road from where I was living, and they said that a majority of their students would be starting the year without backpacks. I knew that I needed to do something. It really hit me as I realized that something as simple as a backpack could go so long for so many students, and I realized that something I had taken for granted my whole academic career could really make an impact on their lives. The counselor asked me if I could get 50 backpacks for the school by the fall, and I dedicated my whole summer to this challenge. This was a perfect ask for me in my opinion, because I didn't want to just go around donating a chunk of cash from each of the portion of the sales, and I wanted to make sure that I could actually see where the money was being put to good use. Just as the summer closed, I found a great deal on some quality backpacks. I pulled the money from the business and instantly bought them, and the kids went to the school happy in the fall. That fall, the business continued to grow, and I made another donation to the school of granola bars and board games. Now you might be asking yourself, why granola bars and board games? Well, you see, some of these students were coming to school without eating a breakfast beforehand and then staying after school because they had no safe place to go home to and playing board games with the counselors, and this was a super important donation for me to make. During COVID, I reached out to more schools and they asked me if I could create care packages for the families that were most impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic in the Berkeley area. It went beyond just the students in schools, and I realized that this business could also help make families' lives easier. During the fall of 2020, I was able to donate a ton of goods, from toothbrushes, deodorant, shirts, socks, underwear, you name it, to make these care packages for these families that were in need. At the start of Tech to Cash, I just been focused on selling electronics and making some good money for myself and my clients, and it turned into something much bigger that had a greater lasting impact on the Berkeley community. And that is the message I hope to leave you guys all with. Your business can have a larger impact than just dollars and cents. That leads me to how you can replicate this business. When I say that you can replicate this business, I really mean it. Go ahead, go make Tech to Cash 2.0. Rather, find your niche. What product do you know really well, have a bunch of it lying around, and know others that have the exact same problem? Take that and run with it. Take the tactics that I shared in this video on selling, accounting, and social media and put your own spin on it. I challenge all of you guys to have a greater social good with your business and be social entrepreneurs. Start selling clothes, old sporting gear, reselling cars, whatever it might be, there's definitely a resale market for it. While Tech to Cash has been my passion for the past few years, it's time for me to move on. I'm a senior in college now, and I'm managing a club, this YouTube channel, work, swim, and most importantly, school. I wasn't giving the necessary time to Tech to Cash, and I knew that someone else could better manage the business. Thankfully, being on the swim team, I have a bunch of freshman teammates that are really excited to take over the business, and they're going to continue the social philanthropy in the Berkeley area that I started 3 years ago. Tech to Cash will still be operating, and I will be overseeing it, and I know that it'll be in the best hands of some really passionate, community-oriented Berkeley students. If anyone is interested in donating financially to the Berkeley schools or donating products to Tech2Cash, make sure to reach out to them on Instagram at Tech2Cash, and I know they'll get right back to you with a response. I hope that everyone takes away something from this video and starts, the next big social entrepreneurship, whether it be Tech2Cash and selling old electronics or starting the next software company that's going to change the world. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time on the channel.